All right. Good afternoon, guys, here on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us. As you saw in the promo post that I recently placed up, is that we do have a special guest joining us today. So give me a moment while I introduce them on. One second. So I would like to introduce our guest today, Catherine Dyer. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. It's nice to see you again.
Right. So for those of you that are joining us now, again, Catherine, thank you so much. This is for the film The Devil to Pay. I recently had Lane and Ruckus on to talk about the film, and it was great to have them on and to pick their brains about putting this film together. So with that being said, Catherine, can you, from your perspective, as our villainous character in this story. Can you tell me how you got involved with it?
I've known Ruckus and Lane for several years here in Atlanta.
Sure. Yes.
We've done a few table reads of their projects, and we'd see them from time to time. Would be social every now and then. And then out of the blue, they contacted me about this role for Tommy Runyon, and they had offered it to someone really big. And they said, well, if she doesn't take it, then we want you to do it. And I was like, well,
You're big.
okay,
You are
I
big.
guess. um, so and it's a role that I don't normally book. I mean, well, let me put it this way, since Stranger Things, and now I am booking these roles. That's right. And hey, fine with me, fine with me. So yeah, it's the role of a matriarch in Appalachia who's the head of this family. Obviously, her brothers are her sort of henchmen, and there's a certain way that the people up on this mountain live, and they live by the creed, and they die by the creed. And I am the one. I'm the puppet master. I pull all the strings, and I make things happen, and I make sure that everyone does their part to live by the creed. And if you don't, there are consequences, aren't there?
That it is. That it is. And can you speak to that? Because just as you said, Ruckus and Lane for pretty much all the roles that they had, they were letting me know that they already had ideas in mind of folks who could fill those roles, and you were among those folks for their villain, and with this character it's so interesting to observe the dynamic of her of what she's doing in a scene that's completely contrary to what she's saying, like how despicable and like nasty some of the things that she says versus what she's like doing, baking stuff and doing all these like really mundane things. So can you talk about that and kind of playing with that dynamic?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to hand it to Ruckus and Lane. It's in the writing. They knew exactly what they wanted, and they were great directors, and they're great writers. So that was there. It was in the script. I thought it was brilliant. It was fun to play with, and working with Danielle, who is amazing. I mean, if this film were bigger, um, like a Hollywood, even a Hollywood and indie, I'm telling you, that woman would be
Yeah,
nominated for an Oscar.
Oscar.
Right? She's one of those talents. I know I'm going off course here, but she's one of those talents that you just sit back and you watch and you appreciate. You can't be envious of it. You can't try to emulate it because it is just innate. And working with her was wonderful. And I tried to, in doing some of our scenes, I kept wanting to go into her zone and give it back to her, in an angry way. And Ruckus and Lane kept saying, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. And the dichotomy of baking a pie and then threatening to kill her precious child. Oh my God. It was awesome. I loved it. I didn't realize until I got on set exactly how they wanted me to play it, and it clicked, and I went, okay, I got it, perfect. It was delicious, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you commented on it just a moment ago in talking about, and I was talking to Ruckus and Lane about it as well, is that world building aspect of what they have with this, what they've quoted as saying this, this insular community of, all these edicts and rules and things that, are, everyday things for them, but we are discovering as a viewer as we're watching it. So can you talk to that, and having those elements intertwined in the story to kind of make it its own thing of these characters in their world?
Well, it was great. I mean, you have to sort of forget that you live in 2020, or we did this a couple of years ago, um, and you have to believe fully believe in this world. So part of my crafting as an actor is doing the research, of course, as all actors do, and researching Appalachian and researching how they live, and they probably have their own creeds, in some smaller sects. I'm sure not to the extent as in The Devil to Pay, but I think that made it fascinating, and even scarier, because you could step out of line and do something that you don't think is that big of a deal, and you lose your hands or an ear, for example. When Lemon is walking over to my house and they have ears tacked on the trees on the way, human ears.
So, as you said, much of what the character that we see on the film, you said was on the page. However, I know still in the environment of being on the set, you're still able to, ideas can still spark. So, were there still small components there that you would say was improvised and still creating that dynamic or that contrast between yourself and the protagonist?
um no, we didn't improvise.
Okay.
We didn't improvise.
Okay.
They Ruckus and Lane were, they weren't sticklers, but they wanted us to adhere to the what was on the page, which is fine because I think it's beautifully written, and the
Yeah,
words came out freely and they flowed. Bad writing is really hard to deal with. I don't know if you realize that, but as an actor, it's hard to memorize, writing that is just sort of subpar. But this was easy, and they knew exactly what they wanted. So if we did sort of veer off course, which I did do a couple of times, say, no, here, come back this way. This is how we see it. And it's their vision, and I'm there to help them create their vision. Um, and they were, wonderful to work with, naturally.
definitely, definitely. And I mean, as you stated before, I have to bring it up. I have to bring up Stranger Things. It was going to be a topic that we were going to hit. And being a part of that pilot season, that first season, and what it's become now. Are you, even though, spoiler alert for those of you, but I mean it's been on for a couple years now, so I
Right.
have to spoil it. Your character does not last beyond that first season, but with that being said, do you still watch the show and been keeping track of like what's been happening season into season?
I don't. Yeah, at the end of the first season, the brothers, that I called them the brothers, the Duffers, they
No,
said,
first, yeah.
"We're not saying you're dead."
I was gonna say that. I didn't know because I mean, yes, something happens to you, but in the world of
Ex-
Stranger Things. I see what I did there. Stranger Things have happened. So,
exactly.
with based on the rules that they have set in that show, anything is possible. So,
I totally agree with that. Anything is possible. I don't hold out hope because, we're already in season 4. I follow it not to a T though.
okay.
It's not one of my must watches, but I do go to it. I don't mean to say that but I do go to it. Yeah, from time to time. I mean, it's so amazing. And of course that first season, no one knew what it was going to be. It was just another job. It was just another job. I knew the next day after it dropped. I knew the next day on the internet. I saw Connie Frazier for President T-shirts, and I went, Oh,
Okay. Okay.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. With that being said, too, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit off stage. Is what that has opened up in terms of exposure to other outside other fandoms, sci-fi fandoms, and fantasy fandoms, and all of those things, and being asked to come to a lot of those events. So, can you speak to that? And I mean, right now, I know things are a little limited, but still a lot of those shows are continuing. I mean, just this weekend we have New York Comic Con happening virtually. So, with that being said, how can you talk a bit about now having that element introduced to you, and now going to a lot of those shows?
Yeah, that was 2017. It was a full year of conventions for me. And I had never been to a convention before. I barely knew what they were, embarrassingly. It was a blast. I had so much fun. And Brandon and I met in DC at the NovaCon, which was one of the best. Um, yeah, it was amazing. I loved it. I loved doing it, even though, as I said earlier, people were so afraid to come to my table because they thought that I was a murderer sitting at the table. I'm like,
Right,
people,
right.
no. um, it was wonderful meeting and talking to all of the people that I met and spoke with. And with Stranger Things, it was remarkable how 7-year-olds would talk to me about the show, and then 80-year-olds would talk to me about the show, and everyone in between. Grandparents would turn their grandkids on to it, and vice versa. It For some reason, it for many reasons, I guess, it hit every generation. But the conventions were amazing. They were so much fun. And in fact, before knowing that I was going to be talking to you, I wonder if this film, Devil to Pay, is going to end up in some cool conventions. Not necessarily horror. I don't know what.
No, I feel like it still could follow there, because there are some elements in this film that you can definitely classify in the horror. So,
The hands on the hood of the car. That's kind of.
or I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get into spoilers, but there is a moment with one of your brothers with one of those factions that does occur that is pretty intense. So that could definitely be classified as horror.
The cult.
Yes,
The cult leader.
as far as I go, because I don't want to spoil it for
No, I'm
anybody.
not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they, when asked Ruckus and Lane, how much of this is true, how much of this is out of your head, and they said the cult was true. I don't know if what happened in the cult, I'm not going to say what it is. I don't know if that's true, but in their research, yeah, they did come upon a cult like that.
Wow.
I know, right? How? Yeah.
So, but Catherine, thank you so much for coming on and talking about A Devil to Pay. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you? Because from my understanding, you also have an organization that deals with acting as well. So, if you'd like to speak to that.
Thank you, Brandon. I own a studio in Atlanta called Drama Inc. DramaInc.net. We teach all sorts of acting classes for all levels, kids and adults. And now that we're virtual, because we're not in person anymore, anyone, we're having students from all over the country log on to our classes. It's really fantastic. My Facebook is Catherine Dyer, and Instagram is at Cat Dyer ATL. My Twitter account is I don't know, something's messed up. I gotta figure that out. Yeah, those are the best ways to get to us. Yeah, check out Drama Inc. Thank you for mentioning that, Brandon. It's
Yeah,
very
of
nice.
course,
It's very nice of you.
of
And
course.
can I give a shout out that Brandon and I met at in DC, and he did a great interview then.
Stop
So
it.
gone. No, it's so I'm happy to do this again. I thank you for having me.
Of course,
Thank you so
anytime.
much.
Anytime. You are welcome anytime. So there you guys have it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movies and Shakers Unlimited. You can find us on Facebook, which of course you're watching now. However, you can find us on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD, on Instagram at Mover Shakers Unlimited, and you can find me, Brandon Troy ENT, on Twitter and Brandon Troy _ ENT on Instagram. So there you
Wow,
guys have
that's
it.
a lot of ways to find you.
Yeah, hey. So there you guys have it. Thanks again so much for watching. Be safe out there, and otherwise, I guess I'll see you soon.
Brandon, thank you so much. Great to see you.
All right, bye.